Hey John, how are you?
Good, Andy. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear
All right.
me?
Yep, perfect. Thanks for doing this. I know it's been like a while since I first reached out, so I'm glad we could connect.
Yeah, I figure these things work themselves out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I really appreciate you doing this. Not sure if you had a chance to even look at the other kind of podcasts that I've done. Um, but you were a topic that a bunch of people kept asking me. They said, "Hey, you should reach out and talk to Andy." So here we are.
I appreciate
Um,
those folks.
yeah, I know. It was funny because like I was at I don't know if you know Kurt Johnston, but we were at his house watching the Iowa game. Was it 2 weeks ago? And Sarah Truitt and Andy Truitt were there, and I think Sarah was the first one that said, "Hey, you should talk to Andy." And then Andy Truitt said, "Do you want me to call Andy for you?" I said, "No, I'll reach out to him." So
Yeah, those
they
are
say,
good folks.
yeah, they say hi.
I've been friends with Sarah for a super long time since freshman in high school, so
Yeah.
she's a fantastic person.
Yeah, and I think you know my wife, maybe, maybe not, but she worked with Sarah at Old Chicago
Yes, I do. Yes,
racing.
we had many great nights there at Old Chicago when she worked there, so I
Yeah.
remember all those days fondly.
So I mean, I'm really interested in knowing a lot about you know, what happened. Like, tell me about when you grew up here in Bettendorf. I think you went to Bettendorf High School, but just walk me through your timeline of I don't want to steal your thunder, but basically it's a really cool story to hear. You know how what happened and taking I would say like some tragic event and turning it into something a little more positive. I think that's a pretty cool story you got.
Yeah, thanks. Start like I'll start back in
Yeah.
middle school, I would say. I did move to I first of all grew up in DeWitt, Iowa till I was 10, then moved to Peoria, Illinois for my sixth grade year, fifth grade year, and then moved to Bettendorf in sixth grade. So I just spent a year in Peoria and then moved to Bettendorf in sixth grade and grew up there, Elmwood Drive area around Duck Creek, and I love that area. It's a great spot. And I would say around probably eighth grade, I say I really started to develop a love for hockey. My friends in Peoria, when I lived there, all played hockey, and I
Hmm.
started skating with them, but I never actually played. And then we didn't have an ice rink in the Quad Cities until I think 1996, maybe 95, 96, probably. And so the only option was to play street hockey or to play on the pond, and that's what we started doing. And I think my freshman year of high school, we started a travel roller hockey team where we were traveling to Madison, Wisconsin, and St. Louis and Chicago, and playing in roller hockey tournaments. And so really enjoyed doing that stuff. And all my friends and I, that's kind of what we got into. We would either be rollerblading and skating or playing some street hockey. So um, that's kind of how I fell in love with the sport of hockey, just to set all that up. And then um, I ended up in my sophomore year of high school. Um, I was my I had just gotten my first job at Palmer Hills Golf Course. I was on the maintenance team there and went into work for about an hour my first night. Just kind of met the crew there. I think they had me sweep up some stuff and clean off the driveway with a pressure washer or something. But real light work. Ended up going home, and my buddies picked me up from my house, and they're like, "Oh, let's head down to the river." There was big lime piles down underneath the 74 bridge down there. I don't know if you remember that, or if you lived here during that time, but there were big lime piles that were kids would go, and we made tracks for bikes on them, and so we would ride our bikes around on there and mess around. And So my friends and I took off to do that. It was also right by the railroad tracks. And my friends and I had been jumping on trains for kind of a fun adrenaline rush kind of thing and riding them for a little bit, jumping off of them, and then running back down, jumping back on, riding them for a little bit. So we thought that was a good a good time at that age. And so I ran down the tracks to jump on this train. I was ran down, went to grab the ladder like I usually do, hop up on there. The train was just going too fast, ripped me off my feet, and so I instinctually just let go and rolled down away from the train. And so, oh man, that was close. And I hear this guy yelling at us, and so somebody had saw me jump on the train. Well, I went to jump up and run, and I fell back down again, and I didn't know what happened. I thought I tripped, so I hopped back up again to run, and uh, fell back down and realized that my right leg was completely gone. It had run over my knee, and it was my leg was about 20 yards away from me, and my left leg was just hanging on by the material of my pants. It ran over my right knee and my left ankle, um, and spit me right back out so fast that I didn't even realize it happened. Um, so I obviously this guy's yelling at us. He saw it happen. He called 911 immediately. Um, and so my friends, there was five of them with me. One stayed with me. Two ran one direction. Two ran the other way around the side of the train to try to get help. They didn't realize that that guy had called 911. And so they were trying to get some help, and my one buddy stayed with me. And so I was in between the railroad tracks and the river, so the ambulance couldn't get to me. So they had to separate the train to get the ambulance through. And so that was a whole process. It wasn't something that just took a second. Um, and
So
meanwhile,
wait, so did the train stop once the guy realized that they ran you over, or you saying
yes,
it
yes, it
stopped?
did.
Okay,
He had
I
radioed
gotcha.
them immediately that that train was stopping and the trying to stop. And but it was so long that it was by the time it was stopped, it was still
Yeah,
blocking the
yep.
tracks.
Oh,
Um, but my femoral artery was severed, so it's obviously pumping blood out as fast as it can there. And so I did remain conscious through the entire thing. Um, and it was just really like a wild scene. I felt like I was in like ER or some medical, emergency room kind of show where it didn't really seem real. And intense burning sensation, like my legs were on fire, but like that was the how I would describe the pain. But um, they got the ambulance to me finally, got me loaded in there, and off I went to Genesis. And luckily, they were doing some training flights for the helicopter was already in the air. The crew was already in the air and doing a training flight, so they were able to come get me real quick and get me up to Iowa City. So. They apparently thought they lost me a couple times on the train ride up there, and it did seem like that was the time where I was starting to lose consciousness. Like I thought I should be sleeping, or I just couldn't help myself from trying to sleep, is what it felt like,
yeah.
and just too much blood loss. They had four different lines in me pumping blood in. I got I think 22 units of blood, um, and but I made it, and
So
they
let me
ended
ask,
up.
can I ask you a
And
question? Because you mentioned being in a TV show, and like that's pretty much the reference I would have is say, like you see all the like you see that stuff on TV, and then what did your friends or you do? Did like you see on TV they'll take your belt off and wrap it around your leg so you stop the blood. Like did anything like that happen, or did you guys even know what to do, or you just were there, and it was like you didn't treat it or anything. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what the guy was trying, the train engineer was trying to get me to tourniquet it. And when my leg ripped off, the skin all rolled up like it was a sleeve, like fully up my leg, and it was exposed flesh. So honestly, I couldn't even handle or even think about trying to strap it off. So sorry, it's a little gruesome, but that's the reality of it. That was a good question. And they were wanting to do that. I think from my recollection, I think once the ambulance was there, they did something once I got probably some pretty good pain medication right when they got there. But um, yeah,
So another,
yeah, they have good orthopedic doctors in the Quad Cities. And so I'm not sure if they just don't have an emergency
yeah,
style, like they can't offer that emergency care. I'm not sure. It's a great question. I don't know either. I'm glad I ended up there. I had a great experience as far as the hospital situation went there.
yeah,
Um, I did go back to Genesis and did rehab there, and they tried to get me to stay there for 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm leaving after one. Like I am not. It was terrible there in
yeah,
comparison. I was so
right.
used to what Iowa City was like and their standard of care, and it was quite a bit different actually than I got in the Quad Cities. So
Yeah, no, I think we have the same thing. Like I grew up in Peabody, Mass, and there was a hospital there, but it would be always people would be rushed to Mass General Hospital in Boston. That was the same thing. They would always get everybody to Mass General Hospital. And there was, I mean, the medical is probably comparable to Iowa City, right? Like that's just a big, teaching hospital, learning and all that same thing within Boston. So
yeah,
yeah, so you end up in Iowa City and
so
like yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm there for a month.
Okay. Oh, a month.
Um,
Oh,
four 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 different surgeries on my leg and my right leg to clean it up. Like I described what happened there with it just took a lot of took us some skin grafting and stuff to really close it up. And so it just took a while. And but so that part was, I got put under 4 different times. I was listening to you guys. I heard you're in Stacia, her podcast with you, and you guys were talking about the surgery and getting put under it. And
yeah.
the you, that I was actually looking forward to getting put under.
Yeah.
After after the first couple, I was experiencing some pretty bad pain,
Yeah.
and it actually was kind of like a relief to get put under. So, um,
So you
but
left,
then
but your left was just it was you said from your ankle down or your left
my
leg.
left is amputated. It ended up right in the middle. It got ran over on my ankle, but it ended up amputated like the middle of my tibia. And my right leg, and it ran over my knee there, so it's like it got amputated in the middle of my femur.
Okay. No, I said so you're in Iowa City for a month. You had four surgeries. I mean, that must be, I mean, and you're how old? Let me think. You're
16.
16. Okay. So, and this was during the summer or when was it?
2 weeks into my sophomore year.
So school had started and so you're
Yeah,
missing all that school, a month of
yeah,
school. Wow.
yeah.
And so when you
Um,
got when I on the podcast with Stacia, she was at Mayo and they talked about housing or staying there for 6 weeks. The other cool thing about Boston is you have like I think the first kind of like family thing was like the Ronald McDonald House was where if you were a patient, you were in a hospital and your family had to stay there and you weren't from that town or whatever, the Ronald McDonald House, they would house you. But I don't know if you know this, but Cam Neely and his brother. So you know who Cam Neely is, the
oh
hockey
yeah.
player? Yeah. So Cam played for the Bruins and he played for
He
Vancouver.
he
Go
and
ahead.
Ray Bork were two of my favorite players growing up.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I'll tell you, I got so many stories about the Bruins, but so him and his brother started the Neely Foundation, and a kid that I went to high school with, his name's Joe Betancourt. He went to Boston University, played football there, but then he became an architect, and he was the architect that designed the Neely building that the foundation is. And it's a similar thing where if you are, say, you're from Michigan and they take you to Mass General and you have to stay there for a month, they put your family up in the Neely Foundation, the house, like. which is a really cool thing. So I don't know if that happened with your family. It's only what, like an hour drive back and forth, but did your family end up coming up there and staying there, or did you stay there by yourself?
They did come up and stay in the Ronald McDonald House, actually,
Okay.
that's there. Not the whole time, but for parts of it. Like, um, since I was 16 and I was staying in an adult unit, then they
Hmm.
allowed me to have my own room, and so my mom or dad could stay there. And
Yeah.
I don't think I ever stayed. I might have stayed there 1 or 2 nights by myself, but I think there was usually always someone there. Um, so that was pretty cool that that all worked out like that. But
So going through that and not even realizing that your leg just got cut off and your other half your other leg got cut off and the trauma that it must have, like, what were you thinking, like, mentally? Were you like, just get better, you're alive? Were you happy? You know what I mean? Like, give me like an idea of like what your emotions you were going through. Because you're going down there to play, right? You're going down there to jump around in the sand and those lime pits or whatever and jump around, and then all of a sudden, you're in a hospital for a month.
yeah, obviously it's the whole gamut of things. Every different kind of emotion that you could think of. You know, lots of bad days for sure. Just denial. There was a time, and it was probably within the first week that I would say that I just was like, this has got to be a dream, this can't be real. But the first time I was in therapy and sat in front of a mirror, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And At that time, I was like, this has happened, this is real, and now you have to figure out how to live like the best life you can with what you've done to yourself. And that's basically what I've been trying to do since. Just every day, just grinding away at how how can I just live a normal life and be a happy human. And so obviously there's obviously tons of bad days in that, and you struggle with so many different things. Going back to school is like was super hard. I didn't do that until after Christmas break, so I missed a whole semester. Um, and one of my initial goals was to still graduate with my class and
Hmm.
get all that done. I was working with a private tutor, and so I was still able to get some of the work done. And but so that I would say, just I was super lucky. I had great friends. The community there in Bettendorf will always just be a special place for just all the love and support that I got during that time. That was pretty awesome. So
So
special
when you
place for
went
that place.
when you went back, and we can talk more about prosthetics and the and whatever happened. And I think, I have a lot of questions about like technology, and I think I mentioned I'm friends with Andy Besser, and I think Andy Besser. And
Yep.
Andy has showed us, like, and I've known Andy since 2011 or 12, and he has, showed us like how even in the last 13 years, how the technology of like a knee joint and an ankle joint, like, it has come a long way, I'll say. So when you were back there though, in your sophomore year, how did you get around? Like, what were you in a wheelchair? Like, walk me through how that kind of all
Yeah, no, it was a
evolved.
long progression, to be honest with you. There's like kind of a timeline to how it all went down. Um, you and I have probably, I know I've seen you around and stuff you probably didn't um, maybe even recognize. I walk around pretty close to normal. And I have this little limp, but um, I just walk around, no assistive devices. And it's been like that with no assistive devices since probably 2000, around 2000.
Wow.
And this happened my accident was in 1993. So there was like a 7 year period there where I was in a wheelchair for quite a while. Like the, I got my first prosthetic. They had just put like a cast on my below knee. amputation and like put a mounting plate with a foot on it. And so I was able to actually stand up and use a walker to walk, you know, 10, 20, 30 yards. Over a period of a month or two, I had worked myself up to getting like a couple hundred yards down the street on just that thing. And then in January of that year, I went into the hospital where they delivered my first prosthetics. And we started to work through like the fitting process of those prosthetics. Both are super individual, custom, many fine tweaks and adjustments to get them just right.
Yeah.
And I so I was in actual they put me in inpatient rehab for that. What I said was they tried to do it for 2 weeks. They were trying to make me do occupational therapy and group therapy, like and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't need most of this here, guys. I'm honestly I could get this from outpatient PT and I'll work out on my own. And um, so I ended up getting out of there in like a week and just doing outpatient physical therapy 3 days a week. And for like an hour at a time, and worked my way up to using those prosthetics with a walker. And I was still, using a wheelchair at school. Um, I think I probably used a wheelchair at school actually all the way up through my senior year. Um, and I could walk around shorter distances with just two canes, and walked around like that for a while. Um, After high school, I probably used. I went down to one cane, and I was just walking with one cane for quite a while, probably a couple years, and um, then my boss, who I worked with at the time, took the cane and told me I wasn't allowed to use it anymore while I was there and like basically hit it on me. And it sounds like a horrible move and a jerk thing to do. And I had, basically I was relying on that thing, thinking that I really needed it. And he was right. I didn't. And I just completely stopped using it and have never used another assistive device again and just walk around. So that's kind of how that progression worked. It took 7 years to get all the way back to just walking, with no assistive devices, but um, happy to be doing it now and hopefully for as long as I can.
Yeah.
I just have one good knee, so if something happens to that one good knee, I'm gonna be in deep trouble.
Yeah. Did you end up graduating and then going to school, or what did you do through after high school?
So part of the process I started. I'll backtrack a bit. How I kind of got into adaptive sport because that's kind of important.
Yeah.
I started playing. I found out there was a wheelchair basketball program in the Quad Cities. The Quad Cities at the time offered really no other adaptive sports programs at all, and wheelchair basketball was it. And so I went and started Bettendorf Community Center. Every Sunday I'd go down there and started playing with those guys and realized right away that it was super fun, that I was having a good time, but also realized that the people in the Quad Cities didn't want to play competitively. They just wanted to play for fun on a Sunday. And I was like ready to, really, I was 16, 17 at the time. And so I just was excited about getting back out and being competitive again. And so I ended up the next year. So this would be my junior year of high school. I started playing for a team in Chicago, and Chicago had a junior program there, and so they had a really good team. And I was driving to Gary, Indiana every
Oh man.
weekend for practice,
Oh my God.
which was pretty funny, but not the nicest area. But there was a lot of really good kids there, so started to really enjoy that and take off. We were starting to travel around. The program had quite a bit of cash to spend, and so they would fly us around to these different tournaments and playing junior tournaments. Had a really good time doing that. And what was so cool, I think, about it was just meeting a lot of other people with disabilities. As a person, a young person, especially with a disability, you just don't see anybody else out there, especially any athletes. And so just having that in common and learning so much about other people's disabilities and seeing all these other athletes doing cool stuff and leading awesome lives and um, they're married and they have kids and they're all normal stuff. And so I think that was a really good thing for me to see and experience. So that was kind of a neat part of that. But we ended up going to the national championships that year, took second in the country, and so that kind of sparked a love for that sport. And
So
the
can I
next
ask you a
year,
question about that? So
yeah,
you said first you said that you did, and then you said we. So I mean, if you were 17, you had a license. Were you driving, or were you going with your parents? Who was going? Who was taking you to all that stuff and driving you to Chicago for practice or to Gary, Indiana? Was it your parents or?
yeah, it was my dad
Okay. Oh
was
wow.
taking me up there. Yeah, so that was also a cool part of it. Just getting to spend that time
Yeah.
with him, and so that's always a good opportunity. And so that all was cool. The next year, we ended up. I played for a team in Peoria, a men's team in Peoria, and my boss at the time, who also took my cane away, that guy was on the team. Uh, and so I started riding up there with him and his friends to Peoria to practice every weekend. And so we started traveling with those guys, and that was a little different experience. Those guys were great athletes, but they also really like to have a good time. So it was
Yeah.
pretty also very educational on the weekends. And so that was for my senior year. And then I did end up graduating with my class from Bettendorf. I had my junior year, I got a job at making prosthetics and orthotics. So the company I ended up going to and getting my prosthetics from, the my prosthetist was like, "Hey, we'd love to have you work after school," and so I started working there and actually building the stuff and learning how to make my own legs, and so that was also very rewarding and for obviously many reasons, but being able to work on the stuff without having anybody, going and relying on your prosthetist is something I knew I was going to have to do for the rest of my life, no matter what. So
Yeah.
I thought it would be a good skill to pick up. Um, so I ended up after high school, I continued to work there, started working there full time, and then I started taking classes at Scott Community College. And my goal was to be a prosthetist. I wanted to do what
Mm.
Andy Besser does and make artificial limbs and braces for people. So I was going to get my biology, degree in biology, and then take that path from there to that. They wanted someone my age to build up and buy into the company, so that was like the kind of the plan early on. And so continued to play sports, got my degree from Scott Community College, and then let's see from there. Um, I went to Western Illinois, still playing. I still was playing wheelchair basketball, but moved to a different team in Rockford, Illinois. They had a really good team there, and so the Peoria team that I was playing on kind of disbanded, and I went to Rockford. So I was driving to Rockford, and this is myself now by myself. Sometimes I would ride with a teammate. There was another guy from the Quad Cities that also played on the team, and so that was a 3 hour or 2 hour drive up there and 2 hour drive back from Rockford. And I went there every Thursday and every Sunday for practice twice a week. And um, then I was going to that lasted 2 years there. And then I found I got done with a wheelchair basketball event and we went to the national championships in Arizona. And um, I was coming back from that, and we got second place in the country, and we were feeling really good about it. And I was like, I should try other adaptive sports. Just and they had been contacting me about playing sled hockey in the Quad Cities and coming to try it. So I was like, when I get home, I'm just gonna try. I'm gonna go down there and give it a shot. There was an event down there where some guys from Salt Lake City that had been in the Paralympics in 2002, they were going to be there, kind of demonstrating how to play. And so I went down there and gave it a shot, and just right away I could tell I really enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of brought me back to skating before, and felt really good. And so it from there, um, that whole the sled hockey just kind of took off. Those some of the guys played in Chicago on a team, and so they wanted me to come up to Chicago and play. So I started driving up there on Saturdays. They practiced from 11 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. They had these 3 hour practices in Winnetka, and so I was leaving my house at like about 6 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock at night, driving up there, practicing from 11 to 2 in the morning, and then hopping back in my car and driving home to the Quad Cities, getting back about
Dude,
5 or 6. Um, but it was just so fun. The guys were really good. That team, the Chicago team I was lucky enough to play on there was like the best team in the world. Like they were flying these guys to play countries. Like we were going to play Team Canada and Team Norway and winning or being competitive in all the games. So they were had a really good group, and guy who was running the whole sports adaptive program in Chicago, which was an umbrella of like 15 different sports. He was funneling like all the money right into sled hockey because that's what he loved. It wasn't right for the program. He ended up getting fired for it later, but um, it really made for an incredible experience for the sled hockey players there. And that was a really good, my first trip ever to Japan was with those guys, and got to go to
can I ask you
Norway.
some? Can I ask you some questions? I got a couple
Yeah.
kind of crazy questions. One, it's like all the driving that you were doing. What kind of car did you did you have? I mean, it sounds like you get putting thousands of miles on your car.
I was, yeah. I just had a little Toyota Corolla and
Okay.
just ran that thing for gave it everything it had.
Yeah. And then the other
Never let
questions
me
I
down either.
have to do with, you know, the sled, like just more of the technical stuff, like because I don't know how it all works. As I was thinking about it today, I thought, okay, so if you're in the sled, and I don't know what how you even get in it, how like is it one blade, is it four blades, is it like a little toboggan, and then how do you move around and have the stick, and how do you like, so if you want to just maybe walk through how that all works, it'd be really cool to
Yeah.
know.
I would definitely encourage anybody listening to this to actually look at it on YouTube. It's probably the easiest way. You can easily just Google a USA Canada sled hockey game, and but so you the at the USA level, we have custom buckets. So I would take my legs off and get inside this custom seat, basically, that has like a top that caps it off. So my legs are protected in there. I'm sitting about 6 inches off of the ice. There are um, two blades underneath the sled. Um, and the blades, as you begin sled hockey, are about 4 inches apart. Once you get to, there are people with blades all the way right next to each other. But mine, I liked mine about an inch apart. Um, Obviously, that affects turning greatly when you're riding an edge. Kind of, you think about it when you're seated on the ice like that, and you're leaning into the turns. We have hockey sticks, a right and a left-handed hockey stick. Those sticks have 6 picks each in the bottom of them
Okay.
that are real sharp, and they so when you hit them into the ice, they dig right in, and you propel yourself with your arms, sliding your hands up and down the stick to maneuver. Good players use their right and the left hand just the same. That's kind of the thing that people have a lot of trouble with is using your non-dominant hand. But obviously, you can be really dangerous if you're using both hands and passing and shooting with both hands. So um, that's
And then Yeah.
Is that a good enough description, you think?
Definitely. I didn't, so like it's on the end of the stick. It's not on the blade, right? It's on the handle. Or is
Correct.
it?
Your hands
Okay.
are up on the blades while you're
Yep.
pushing, and you
Yep.
slide them down to where the picks are when you're stick handling and shooting.
Okay. Other question. So I know hockey and I know the positions. So what is the goalie situation?
The goalie is also seated in a sled.
Okay.
They can use two leg pads or one leg pad, depending, or they don't even have to use a leg pad if they don't want.
So just a
Um,
goalie stick though?
they modify their goalie sticks. There are certain dimensions their goalie sticks can be, just like NHL players would
Yeah.
have, with certain dimensions of their paddle. But and they also have a pick on the end of theirs so that they can push and move around on one end and then slide their hand down, and they have the goalie paddle on the other. They have a blocker on that. They have a glove.
Glove.
Um,
Okay.
yep. And so. Believe it or not, the best goalies out there, it's really hard to score on them, even with the way as good as we are at shooting.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sounds like so you go you obviously are pretty coordinated from playing the basketball and then going right to the skating. And when you were talking about the sled, I was thinking I remember when I learned how to skate, we called them double runners. You know, the blades that you had two blades on each,
Yeah,
foot versus one, and then going from two to one. And then, I had a lot of friends that played hockey and we just didn't have the money to play. I always wanted to play, but I did the same thing as you. I played street hockey. So from
yeah.
like all middle school, I played street hockey on this team, the Peabody Flyers, in Saugus, Mass, at Hockey Town, and that was like the greatest sport. It got me in like the best shape. I played football too, but it was awesome. So you go from like when you did that event in the Quad Cities, did they must have obviously had stuff for you. And when you go now, you're playing now, did you have to buy the sled? And you mentioned the guy threw money at this. So did you get all this stuff? And then do you wear the rest of the equipment? Obviously, I'm thinking you probably wear the helmet, pads, everything.
Yeah, helmet and shield are like with the sharp picks on the end and stuff. You have to
Oh yeah.
have a
Yeah.
shield, a helmet, shield.
So is it full?
Even Yep, yeah, full cage, and then
Yeah.
even neck guards are mandatory in like international play. And they obviously are for all of hockey now, but even before that, before anybody else, they were mandatory for sled hockey.
Yeah.
In international play, people use the picks. They're very good about actually using them as a weapon, and so you do really need those. Like you're very typically in a game, you're bleeding from the sides because you don't have anything on your underneath your elbow, underneath your armpits. There's no padding there, and so you usually get stabbed a couple times.
Jesus. Is there fights?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
you can Google those too. They're obviously, just like hockey fights, nobody's really gonna get too hurt, but yeah, you're just swinging for the fences out there. And anytime you're playing a full contact sport, people are gonna get, pissed and take a swing at somebody eventually. So
So yeah, now you're playing for that team in Winnetka and then how did you know or when did let me ask you that. Let me back up. Sorry. When did it become like a Paralympic sport or was it always?
no, it was not always. It was added, I think, 1998. I think was the first official, or maybe that was the first official time the U.S. had been there. Maybe it was 4 years before that. It might have been 94 in Lillehammer. Um, but the U.S. went for the first time in Nagano, when the Winter Olympics were in Nagano, and
Is it the same year as the regular Olympics every year? Like how it's the same Winter Olympic year as the regular Olympics? Okay.
yeah, it's always 2 weeks after. Yep,
Okay.
same venues, everything's the same. It's just 2 weeks after. Uh, Para actually stands for parallel with the Olympics.
Okay.
Um, so
So it has
and
nothing to do with anything. It's parallel. Okay.
yeah,
Huh.
yep. Didn't know that myself, but that is a fact. Um, so I played for that Chicago team for 1 year. And after there was a ton of drama on the team, there were guys who had different goals, and some guys really thought the sport was going to be bigger than it could be. And so they were kind of all the Blackhawks players did not want me to try out for the U.S. team. They were really against the U.S. program at that time. They thought they were better than them. And so it was controversial that I was even going to go try out for that team. But I just thought it was in my best interest long term. And so I did. I went and tried out in 2005 and did make the team the first year I tried out there. Um, and
What position
so,
did you play? Sorry, I didn't even ask.
well, I started out as a right winger.
Okay.
And so I did play wing up for a while. I did end up at defense, but I did start at wing. In so that was that year I got to go to Germany. That was pretty cool, and I think that was the only international trip we took other than going to Canada a couple times. And so that's kind of when the whole US thing took off. In my personal life, I ended up quitting that basketball team that I was on in Rockford. I was trying to work full time, go to school full time, and play on these two teams. I was also playing wheelchair football for a team in Chicago for that season. So I was trying to play three sports and do all that, and I ended up I was gone 50 weekends out of
Oh
the
my God.
52 weekends in the year,
Yeah.
um, but having a blast. It was probably the most fun year of my life, I would say. Just moving around constantly. It was got to go to tons of different cool places, and it was definitely a really good experience. Um, the next year was a Paralympic year, which is in the Paralympic in the Olympic cycles. That's a big deal. Um, Everything's ramped up that at that point in time. It's media coverage starts like, people start paying attention and writing articles at the beginning of the year, and um, tryouts are a bigger deal, and there's just a lot more funding for the program in a Paralympic years, and that's still the case. That's still how it is, and we just increased training stipends and stuff like that. So. My first games was in Torino, Italy, and that whole experience was incredible. Opening ceremonies is undescribable how cool that whole experience was. In Italy too, we were walking underneath the stadium and we couldn't really tell where we were, and all of a sudden we walked out into like the middle of the stadium and it's just completely roaring, and it was a really cool scene. The national anthem's playing, everybody and has their opening ceremony outfits on, and you're with your country. It's just felt like I floated around the track on that, like I
So
barely even remember.
what year was that?
2006.
2006. Okay, so 2005 you didn't make the team, but that was like pre now it's an Olympic year and you make the team. Where were the tryouts and what was that like? And how many people tried out and made the team? Like how many did they keep on the team?
Um, I think my first tryout, there was probably like 60 some people there. And they first kept 19, and then cut down to 17 after January, I believe. Um, we there's lots of different stuff. I mean, the drug testing stuff that you have to do and report your whereabouts every single day. That all really is a crazy process. The training camps we were going at that time, we were training at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs and Lake Placid.
Yeah.
And so. I don't know if you've ever been up to Lake Placid, but it's not an easy place to get to. You have to fly into Albany and then take a bus up to Lake Placid, and it's really kind of a brutal trip. Just getting there and back um, is not super easy. So, obviously, the training camps were 4 to 5 days long, and um, really a fun experience. Getting to, having everybody, the best people from around the country in any sport get together and practice and play for a few days. It's really a cool thing to be able to do. And so that I don't know how much more you want me to get into that, or if you have
So
any
it's
other.
2000. I was just asking about the tryout and everything, but now you're at 2006. You're in Torino in the Olympics. What happens? I mean, how many games? I like you make mentioned Lake Placid. So I'm older than you. I watched the whole 1980 Miracle on Ice while it was happening, and it was
Yeah,
so
you'd have been
close.
12, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in '68, so yeah, I was right there, and it was. I mean, I loved hockey, and a lot of those guys were from Massachusetts. It was like the coolest thing. I just remember me. I have a younger brother and an older brother, and my parents. I just remember watching the Olympics in our TV room, like all of us, like the whole
Yeah.
family, just sitting there watching. And I think like my dad had like a friend he worked with, son played, and I mean, it was like Miracle on Ice. I mean, you couldn't even describe how proud it made everybody that and I think that the misconception is that when they beat the Russians, they won the medal, and it's like, no, 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 that
Mm-mm.
was not the medal game,
Yeah.
it was the next game, and it was pretty awesome. So yeah, I mean, so now you're in Torino, you're on the team, and that must have been like the coolest feeling in the world to put that jersey on, to be an Olympic athlete and competing. That's pretty cool.
It felt real it felt real crazy once finally get to that point. And once you get to the games and start to experience like what level, that just all these thousands of people from around the country, the amount of reporters and press and all that stuff is just something that none of us are used to. And so it definitely makes for a really crazy experience. Sold out games, like adaptive athletes, all the wheelchair basketball games and all the stuff I played in, you don't get sold out crowds. That doesn't happen where thousands of people are watching and cheering. So, and that's what the Paralympics you get, and it is just such a cool experience. Every game is so fun to play in, and so it really was an awesome experience. We ended up getting beat by Norway in the crossover game. And so we got kicked into the bronze medal game. We lost by them. They scored a goal with like a minute left to beat us, and it was we were all pretty disappointed. I mean, when ever you train that hard for one goal and you got one shot at it there, every 4 years, and you know that you gotta wait 4 more years, it really hurts to know that you don't. It was such a defeat to have to go play in that bronze medal game. It was really tough just to keep the team on the rails, and be able to pull out. We ended up beating Germany um, to get bronze, but that was a struggle after everybody was just so down from that loss to Norway. So
Are
um,
the I'm sorry to interrupt you, but like for the global and the Olympics, like are the same kind of teams competitive in the Paralympics as they are in like the Olympics? Like you have the Sweden team, the Germany team, the Russians obviously used to be, and I don't even know what they are anymore, but like in Canada. So is it similar competition wise with the
yeah,
Paralympic? Okay.
yep. Japan and South Korea both have pretty good
Oh,
programs.
okay.
China also has a good program now. They didn't used to, but once they had the Paralympics in Beijing, they went all out and uh, went and recruited some of their best. So they got a pretty good program.
You win
Uh,
bronze medal, and then you got to go home. Well, you stay or whatever, and
yeah. Well, me and some younger guys on the team, the guys we knew were going to come back for the next one, had a little meeting there once we knew that things were that it was all over, and we all said that we really wanted to do everything we could to not have to listen to Canada's national anthem on when they raised that flag. It was brutal. Um, and so we were not going to let that happen again, and we all said that we were going to do whatever it took. So, but it got 4 years, before you get another shot at it. So in 4 years, though, we knew it would be in Vancouver, and that we would have an opportunity to beat Canada in Vancouver, and that was really a driving factor, I would say, for a lot of us. Um, that hatred between U.S. and Canada for hockey is like so. It's just such a heated rivalry. I know on the men's team, the women's program, our program, all of us, um, it's definitely such a fun rivalry, and the games are just nasty. So it's really fun to play in them.
Yeah, like I'll give you an example of that hatred. It's like growing up in Boston, it was so if you loved baseball, it was Yankees, Red Sox, right? That you hated New York. And you didn't even know as a kid, you're like, I love baseball, but I hate New York. And then with
Yeah,
hockey was so painful, because in the 70s, Bobby Orr, Johnny Busick, all these guys, Jerry Cheevers and all those guys, and they were winning. They won Stanley Cups. And then all of a sudden, Montreal, I mean, I just hated Montreal. I hated Montreal Canadiens my whole entire life. I still hate the Montreal Canadiens. And it's just crazy how like there was a period when I was in like maybe freshman year to like junior year in high school, you just couldn't beat the Canadians. You just couldn't beat them. And then one year, I remember we beat them. It was like 2-1, and it was like, but we never ended up. We couldn't. It wasn't like we were playing them for the Stanley Cup. It was the division. You
yeah,
know, we couldn't get past them for so long. It was
yeah,
just but that rivalry, you're right. The Canadians versus the US in hockey is a big deal.
yeah. So then after that, um, ended up I got married to my wife, Katie, and decided that it was probably a better idea to go back to school and make sure I finished my degree. That year I was in the going to Torino. I took that year off of college because I just realized that I was still working full time and trying to train, and that it was just something had to give. So
Yeah.
um, didn't go back to school that year. So I decided I was gonna take a year off of sled hockey and go back to school. So ended up doing that and got my degree in business administration. And my wife and I bought a condo in Eldridge, and we were doing good. I was working back at still working for the prosthetic and orthotic company, and but I had decided that I no longer wanted to do that anymore. I started seeing patients for them alongside the prosthetist and helping with that, and I just didn't like it at all. It was not for me, and so changed my degree to business and got away from the prosthetics stuff. But so I did start instead of manufacturing the prosthetics, I went into the billing and the front office side of that business and started working for them in that capacity. So learning a whole different side
Mhm.
of that. And so that was a cool part too, is that they were if it wasn't for that company working with me on a schedule and stuff, I think I took 60 days off one year to travel. So I was really lucky that they were flexible and willing to work with me on employment, because that'd have been pretty tough.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I have friends that one friend that was on the Olympic team and back in the early 90s, and it's not like it is today, I don't think, and I don't even know what it's like today, but I don't know if you remember, but there was a period of time where it was like Home Depot really sponsored these guys and gals
Hmm.
because it is it's not like playing in the NBA or playing in Major League Baseball or playing in the NHL. It's I guess a
99%.
struggle, right?
yes, 99% of Olympic and Paralympic athletes are playing and doing those sports because they absolutely love them, not because they're getting paid a bunch of money. There are a couple athletes, and you can probably name all of them that make all the money, and
Yeah.
all the rest of the athletes are just struggling to get by and train. I mean, that's the facts of the Olympic and Paralympic movement. The whole thing is um, they've gotten better, some better funding over the last um, 10 to 20 years and have been able to share it amongst the athletes better. They also now have a cool program that if you do win gold, there's like over the next like 15 years you get so much money. Those are all cool programs. They weren't around when I was winning medals, but they're cool.
Did
And that
you
helps.
so yeah, a couple things. One, I don't know if you saw this, but I think it was yeah, Tracy just told me Greg Louganis just sold all his medals. And
Hmm.
I thought, wow, he must. I mean, and I think it was like $700,000 or something that he made. Um, but I was going to ask you another question about that before that. I was going to ask you about,
You got to be in a bad spot.
yeah. Oh, I know. So is it just the US that treats their Olympic athletes like that? Like does Canada give these guys money or does China? I mean, you hear all these, I remember growing up, you heard all these stories about China and like them taking the kids when they're like 3 years old and putting them in a camp and like, to be a gymnastics or whatever. But so do you know any like are the any of the other countries like that? Like where they
We
have
are
to
one of
work
the
too or
we are one of the only countries in the world that does not have their government sponsored Olympic and Paralympic program. We are fully privately funded.
yeah,
The US government gives them no money. So it's all
this makes
relied
no
on
sense to me.
donations and company sponsors and that stuff. And that's what makes it a bit more impressive that we dominate the games, every games. Is that the athletes are out there not making money themselves and out there just training for the love of the sport.
Yeah.
Um, Nobody's making them do it. But so many of these other countries are funded by the government. Not all of them are paying their athletes. Many are actually their um, at least their top athletes are all being paid. Um, but I would say even the U.S. now is at a point where a lot of the athletes are getting pretty good funding. Our sled hockey program, the very last thing I did when I left was negotiated the first contract between the team and USA Hockey to get paid, and
Yeah.
so that um, was the best feeling to be able to go out like that because it was a goal
Yeah.
of mine
That's
the
awesome.
entire time I played. So,
All right, so
um,
2006, you got 4 years to 2010 to train, and now is it tryouts again? Do you have to try out every year, every time? Is it a
yeah,
new team? Is it all new guys from 2010 when you go, where was 2010 Olympics?
2010 is in Vancouver.
Oh yeah, Vancouver. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. That's right.
Um, so in 2009, the season before, I tried out again, made the team. There was probably 75 to 80% of the people were the same. Um, and
Same coach?
uh, different coach. And he got some games. He's an NHL player, big, played a lot in the minor leagues, but he managed Four Sheet Ice Center in Rochester, New York.
Hmm.
And so my wife and I decided if I was going to do this, we were going all in. And so he had offered to help me find a job there in Rochester, and so my wife and I moved to Rochester, New York in 2009, so that I could. He said I could have as much ice as I wanted there, and so was able to skate 3 or 4 days a week at least, and ended up getting a job as an electrical supply sales rep for a company there in town that he had a good relationship with. And my wife was able to get a job at a bank there. both of us had degrees, or actually, I was just finishing up my business administration degree. I think I just had a few credits left. She was finished with hers, and so got jobs and worked and trained and started going to a trainer in Buffalo, New York, so which is just an hour down the road from Rochester.
Hmm.
Uh, 5 or 6 of my teammates lived in Buffalo, and then another couple players moved to Buffalo. And so we had a pretty good core group that was able to practice together multiple days a week, and we were working out with this trainer together. The trainer had his master's in sports science,
Mm.
and if you're familiar with sports science, it's a bit different. You actually break down the movements of the sport and then train people based on their movements of their sport and to peak at the right times and do all that. And this guy
Hmm.
he was awesome. He had worked for the Olympic Training Center after college, and then he was the head guy for University of Buffalo, and he worked with NHL guys, Major League Baseball guys. Like Cleo Mack was he worked. Cleo Mack was like his personal. He was Cleo Mack's personal trainer. So he was once we started working with him, we knew that he was legit and that this guy was real serious about um, helping our team and breaking down how as athletes like what muscle groups we used, how we used them, and training specifically for that. And it really like took all of us to kind of a different level. And so it was worth moving there for that. We ended up going to the World Championships that year in the Czech Republic, and ended up playing in the gold medal game, and I was able to score the game-winning goal with 11 seconds left to win gold. And so that was probably my single coolest sled hockey moment, I would say. Was and anytime you can win
Yeah.
in the gold medal game to win with a few seconds left, it was um such a cool experience. And then obviously that that night in the Czech Republic was one none of us, our teammates and I will never forget. Um, I got named captain of the team just like the week before, so it was just a really cool experience all around for me there, and one I definitely won't forget.
Did your
So
wife go?
no, she did not. She did not go on that trip, and I can't even. I'm not even sure why. Because she did go on some trips, but definitely didn't go on that one. I don't know if she was just not interested in the Czech Republic, but the Czech
Yeah.
Republic's beautiful. If you've never been
Yeah.
there, it's a fantastic place. Um, so anyways, came back home to Rochester and got didn't take much time off, got back to training a few more of my teammates. Then that next one we had tryouts for this upcoming 2010 run to Vancouver, and some more of my teammates committed to coming to Buffalo and training with that guy and all of us skating together. And so it the year they ended up moving me back to defense halfway through that year, and decided that um, that was a better spot for me. And so that was kind of weird making that transition in that middle, but I was getting a lot of work, and we were all playing together a lot, so it was probably as good a shape as I could ever have been in. And all of us were on the same program, and we were all working together real hard. And so we went into Vancouver, and we um, played 5 games and outscored our opponents 19-0. Nobody scored on us in that entire games, and so it was definitely one of those deals where we just outworked everyone as a team in that games. It was Canada ended up losing to Japan in the crossover, so we didn't even get to play them in the gold medal game, which was really a disappointment for all of us. Like we really wanted to beat them in Vancouver in front of their own fans. That was a big deal to us, but no matter what, we ended up beating Japan 2-0, and so first gold medal was incredible. We did get to listen to our national anthem get raised when the banners went up, and so that was an incredibly special moment. That obviously you can only dream of those times, but um, after that. The one cool thing I didn't talk about in the first games was you get to go meet the president at the White House
Oh yeah.
after these, and that's like always a really cool time because all the athletes, Olympians and Paralympians, all come to Washington D.C. for one weekend, and they throw a big party, and all the athletes have been, everybody's training their hardest for years, and then all of a sudden one night everybody just gets to finally let loose, and so it's always a super good time. Everybody's hanging out, Sean White's just hanging out, and all these Apollo Antonono, all these people see in the Olympics all the time, and you're like, oh, um, but
So
so that's
did you guys all stay at like the same place, or were you spread
yeah.
out and
Yep.
you all
No,
stayed?
they
Okay.
put everybody up in a hotel and rent out the event space there, and but it's yeah, it's really a fun experience. So that's its own cool part that I got to do
And that
after
was
each of the
'06.
games.
After
Uh
'06.
'06 we did too, and that was Bush in the White House. And then 2010 was
Obama.
Obama.
Yeah.
And I got to present him and Michelle a jersey
Oh wow.
with
Oh
the
wow.
team, so that was kind of neat.
Yeah.
So yeah, we actually spent in Vancouver after Vancouver that time in 2010. Just our team was in the room with Obama and Michelle and Biden and Jill for probably 20-30 minutes, just shooting the breeze.
In the White
Really,
House.
yeah, yeah. Um,
So
in
that's crazy. So
Typically it's
here's
not that small of a group, but that was a
yeah,
kind of I'm not sure if it was timing wise what was going on, but
yeah.
yeah, we it was really neat.
So here's a question for you. Think about what happened, right? That it didn't ruin your life. Like I mean, it could have happened to anybody, and you go from basically losing both your legs to meeting Obama in the White House and winning Olympic gold medal. So the question I have is, I know it's such a like hypothetical, but before your accident, what did you want to do? And I know you were still young and all that, but I mean, just think about how your life, how different it would have been. Maybe, not maybe, I mean, who knows? All right. I don't know. But it's just so cool how you didn't take that and make it like a career ending, life ending type situation. You turned it into this. It's amazing. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
like I said, I'm just yeah, that's all I've tried to do, and I just you know, saying yes to stuff and getting outside your comfort zone with stuff, and all while trying to be as positive as you can. Um, I did have another, to backtrack all the way back to getting out of the hospital. My ride home from Iowa City to Bettendorf was kind of my first time outside of the hospital and seeing like the green trees for some reason like really sticks out to me that time it was like super appreciative of just being alive. And I always try to like get back to that and remember that just super lucky to be here. And you like every day all of us are super lucky to be here. I mean,
Yeah.
incredible what's going on inside your body right now to allow you to be living anymore at all. So I'll always just try to keep that frame of mind and try to make the best of each day, because we aren't promised any more of them. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it like to make it to the Olympics at any level is just an incredible achievement. And one of the questions that I thought of when you were talking about the games, and when you said you got moved to defense, instantly went to thinking, do you skate backwards?
nope,
Yeah, that's right. I didn't think. I
it's
mean,
all
because
about
you're
angles.
pulling. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah, it's all about timing and angles, and you gotta just be a little bit better about that than when you're doing stand up.
Yeah. I got a good story for you. So I played football, and then I went to Framingham State in Massachusetts, and I played football there. And 2 years before I got there, um, I didn't go to college right away out of high school. I couldn't. I didn't have any money, and I didn't get in. I applied. I didn't have the grades, whatever. But anyway, 2 years before I get there, there was a kid. His name was Mike Hawking, and he played football. He was the quarterback on the football team. And in Framingham, I would say it's comparable to like a Davenport area where there's all trains. There are trains everywhere, right? Like, and so this kid, similar story, was they would hop on the train because they went from the campus, behind the campus, to downtown. Maybe he lived in an apartment. I don't know the whole full story. But he didn't get run over. What happened to him was his foot got stuck in the part where, the trains meet, and it slacked, and then it cut his whole like foot in half. So he lost the like all of his toes and like half of his foot. The point of the story was, so then he was the quarterback on the football team, and he couldn't really run as well as he used to. He had this special cleat made, but they changed the offense to a run and shoot offense. So he just would they'd hike the ball to him, and he would just throw every play. And so when I got there, they had the run and shoot offense, and I never played quarterback in my life. I played receiver, but I ended up playing quarterback and played in that run and shoot offense, which is just kind of related to this old like losing a foot in the train uh type situation.
What was that a question, John? Sorry.
No, 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 no. I was just telling you this story that I know somebody that lost like their foot in a train, got run over, and I know another guy I met. I used to work at John Deere, and I had a customer in Texas. He played football at Texas A&M, and then when he graduated, he had a farm out in the middle of nowhere, Texas, and he was driving there after work late, feeding his cattle. It was a cattle farm, and when he was driving home, he fell asleep and he got hit by a train. He got hit by a train, and it knocked him like, hundreds feet away. He had an ATV in the back of the pickup truck he was in. It like crushed his skull and all this other stuff. And next thing he does this like the rehab and all that kind of stuff. And he's still he's alive. And that's my full circle point is that, you could, there's setbacks, but you're alive, right? And now you're thriving. You thrived, you made it to the Olympics twice, it's unbelievable. It's a really, really cool story. And that's what I was thinking is like, again, it's hypothetical, but did you even want to play hockey? I know that hockey's not a big deal out in the Quad Cities, but would you even have thought of playing hockey?
I did. I did think I should play hockey. I just didn't you don't even know what you don't know living in the Quad Cities. You don't know that there's people out there that have been training, like you said, since you were two. And um so that whole thing was a pipe dream of mine at, when I was a kid, because I was better than the other people I was playing against around, but that wasn't, it wasn't elite level competition. So no, I did really I loved hockey, but I didn't know that I wasn't that good, So
And
I do
when
now.
then, but when you started playing the basketball, is just because it was a sport that they had for
Yeah, it was the
wheelchairs, right?
most.
It was okay.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have any special love for basketball. I just had so much fun playing it. I did play basketball growing up, just but I wasn't like I was gonna be in the NBA or anything. I knew I was a small kid and I wasn't gonna go anywhere in basketball, but I did really enjoy wheelchair basketball. It was super fun.
Yeah.
Um, so after I went to Vancouver, um, I did I went back again and played in 2014. Um, that was 4 years later. So I went back, and uh, my wife was pregnant while we were in Vancouver. Had my first child in 2010 in June. So just a couple months after the games, had my daughter Abby, and so I was just working again we moved back to Iowa to the Quad Cities. I went back and started working as a manager at the prosthetic and orthotic place. My old boss there decided to retire, and so I moved into her role. And my wife got a job at in HR at Rule and Rule, and
Oh, wow.
um, we were just living a nice life there. And then I decided that still thought I had what it takes to go back and try it again. Um, I had talked to the team manager, and um, he needed some good leadership back on the team. The younger guys who were trying to take over the leadership roles were not getting it done, and so they were wondering if I was interested, and I talked it over with my wife because that's the most important.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
most important yes I need out of that, and she was on board. So went to tryouts again and made the team, and um, that was a cool season because the PBS was doing a documentary on the team called Ice Warriors. You can check it out on PBS if you go to PBS website. Ice Warriors is still on there. You can watch it for free. It's an awesome documentary. They did a fantastic job, but they followed us around all year. Um, Again, got to go to some cool countries and do some cool take some cool trips on that one. Um, my wife got to go to Japan with us on that year, and so those uh those were fun. And then the games were in Sochi,
Yeah.
Russia. Um, right before we left, so Russia invaded Crimea, which
Mm.
is just a little ways away from Sochi. And so it was got to be real political. And for a little bit, we weren't sure if we were gonna go. And so that was weird. We had been training obviously super hard all year. Um, I was definitely not at the level I was in Vancouver when I was working with the guy in Buffalo. I was working out really hard at home, but just not at the level I was in Vancouver. But um, so we went to Sochi. It was another really cool experience. The Russian people were fantastic. The village was awesome. It was another really cool games. Um, Something else I didn't talk about, another process of going through the games is you go through team processing before you go. And at team processing, you do media training. They give you a security rundown of the games, and you also go through um, and receive about eight to $12,000 worth of clothing. um, you get shoes, socks, underwear, shorts, pants, um, shirts, long sleeve shirts, sweatshirts, vests, jackets, you name it. Ski goggles, sunglasses, stocking hats, gloves, every single thing you could ever wear, and a whole bunch of sets of them. And they obviously want you to wear that at all the games. Um, Nike and Polo were the outfitters for like Vancouver and Sochi, so tons of cool Nike and Polo gear. And so you get all this stuff, and then they send it to the village to your room, and you have all the stuff there. And it's literally like four huge duffel bags of stuff. You get fit for an Olympic ring, you get Olympic watches. You get so there's a ton of that, but that's a really neat process that people don't behind the scenes get to see, um, that you have to do. So when we went to Sochi, we flew to Berlin,
Hmm.
landed in Berlin at like midnight, did team processing all throughout the night, and then had to leave at like noon. Then so we got to sleep for like a couple hours and then fly to Sochi from Berlin. And so that then we were in Sochi, I think for uh I think 10 days altogether. It actually might have been 14 days altogether, but the Olympic Village was beautiful. It was right on the Black Sea, gorgeous view of the Black Sea out our windows there. And I would say that was probably the nicest athlete village of the three that I stayed in. And so that was a neat experience. We ended up playing Russia for the gold medal in Russia, which was an absolutely like couldn't have been a cooler
Yeah,
atmosphere that you could ever think of.
right.
We watched the movie Miracle that we talked about earlier. We watched it as a team right before we went and played in the gold medal game. Everybody, you watch that movie and then we get to go play the Russians right after that. Like John, we were jacked.
Yeah,
We were ready to go. Uh, we already had a pretty good idea that they were on steroids for the whole year. And which came out. There's a whole documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen Icaros. It's about the doping program in Sochi and how all the athletes were doped, and
yeah,
the whole sled hockey team is all in there as being doped. And we were pretty certain at the time that that was the case because they got like real good real fast. Um, and so we were able to beat them 1-0 in front of their people, and it was every time that they touched the puck, the whole building like was just like lifted, like you could feel it. And every time we touch a puck, it's just silent, and then they touch
yeah.
a puck, it's just roaring, and it was
Well,
such a neat atmosphere to play in. The building was beautiful. There was like 12,000 people standing, totally packed. Like you couldn't fit another person in there. Like it was awesome.
what
Probably
happened
one
to
of the neatest
Canada
parts.
that what happened to Canada that Olympics?
Oh man, that's it. Again, they ended up getting beat in the crossover by Russia, and so um, they got sent to the bronze medal game again there. And so that's obviously a whole nother happy story for us that we love to tell. But um, this- it was a really cool. We were just so happy to play Russia there that
I
it
thought
made
of a
it extra
question.
special.
I thought of a question. So thinking back to the 80 Olympics and when the US won the gold in hockey, um, they got the medals there on the ice. Did they do a different ceremony? Like, like how did that work for you guys?
Yeah, no, we always got our medals on the ice right
Oh,
there
wow. That's
at
awesome.
the yeah. They do the medals and then everybody then they raise the banners and play your
Yeah.
national anthem, and
Yeah.
that's for sure like the coolest part of each of
Yeah.
those are top moments in my life for sure. That you don't ever forget. That's for sure. Your teammates all just got your medals and everybody's hugging it out, and it's just a
Yeah.
really neat thing. So
So
super fun.
a couple of questions. One, are you still in touch with, or are you still friends with those kids that were with you when you got injured?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay. And
I still
then
talk to each of them
that's great. Yeah.
pretty regularly. Well, one of them is fairly famous. Eric Olson is on was on NCIS Los Angeles for like
Actor,
15 years,
the
and
actor guy. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, done a bunch of stuff. He was there with me,
Oh,
and I just texted with him recently, um, and the one of the guys I'm going camping with next week. So it
that's
yeah, no,
cool.
I still talk to each of them regularly. It's something you just don't
Yeah,
forget about. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool. So, I mean, I have so many questions, just more hockey questions, just about like, you know, I remember hearing stories. You mentioned Ray Bork. I just remember hearing stories about how he used to sweat so much that he would go through like 8 pair of gloves in a game because he would sweat so much.
yeah,
Um, but a really couple cool stories about the Bruins if you're interested. But when I was younger, my dad he had a friend that was involved in the Bruins organization, and he could get tickets. And we didn't go a lot. Let's just say maybe 3 or 4 games a year, if that, because it was expensive. And this is in the '70s and then the early '80s. So picture 12-year-old me and my 13-year-old brother. We go to the game, and then we get to go in the locker room and meet the players. All right. And so first time in the locker room, which was amazing. And all these guys are there. And this was like when it was Bork was like Rick Middleton, Bruce Crowder, Keith Crowder. It was that year, that era of the Bruins. Um, and we got to get their autographs, right? But I mean, it was like the first time in a locker room, and they're in there taking showers and stuff, and we're just standing there like these two idiot kids, like, what the hell are we even doing in here? But my dad's friend was in like ticket sales or whatever, so we had these like black and white 8x10s of each player, and we got to go around and get them all to sign it and stuff. It was really, really cool. So
Yeah,
do
that's
you
cool.
guys, yeah, so like from expectations of what that's what my question was going to be is like, that they don't have to do that, the players, but they did it. So from being an Olympic athlete, and you talked about the processing and going through the media training and all that. Are there media events where you get like they take you guys to meet kids? Is there anything like community involvement when you did those three Olympics?
I've probably talked at 40 schools.
Yeah, that's
Uh, I
cool.
yeah, I definitely have talked to lots of different schools. Through lots of different channels. Yes, the USOPC set some of that up. I was sponsored by like AT&T and Deloitte for a while. I've done stuff for Toyota, so Wells Fargo. So I've done lots of different corporate
Hmm.
things, and
Yeah.
yeah, the team would sometimes go as a whole team to schools when we were out places. So yeah, no, lots of that stuff takes place. We are really about getting out in the community and showing people that people with disabilities still are out there leading normal lives and
Yeah.
doing fun stuff. And so we definitely think that that's kind of a big deal. And so anytime we do that stuff, we try all of us try to. Everybody involved, I think, is thinks that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I mention it only because like it still had an effect on me, and here I am, 57 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And it
Yeah.
just and it just you never know when you're going to inspire one kid, It just takes like
We
one thing.
After our games, we'd often have kids with disabilities and stuff come in the locker room and meet us and stuff like that. And that it was always really cool. And I've had a few people reach out to me and tell me like now they're grown and they've friended me on Facebook and they
Yeah.
remember this and they're like, I just can't tell you how cool I thought that was. And
Yeah.
those are really neat experiences to have and to know that you impacted somebody like that. Like I have a guy I keep in touch with that his mom like had me sign a picture for him and send it to him when he was like 3 and he's still like now he's in college and so just like all those neat little stories that you just don't know what's happening in the background and who you're
Yeah.
touching and stuff. So that's always real neat. I've done tons of public speaking to different people, and you just never know who needs to hear your story or take
Hmm.
something good away from it, and or
Yeah.
so it's definitely cool. Neat to know you can have that kind of an impact.
Keep you too long. It's almost 8:30, but um I had said that Greg Louganis sold his medal. Do you still have all the gear, all the metal, everything? Like you still have all the stuff? I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah. I have totes and
Yeah.
totes of even clothes that I probably could get rid of, but I'm always like, maybe my kids will want them someday or something. But yeah, all my medals for sure are kept in a spot, and um, so
Yeah.
I got lots of other memorabilia from all the trips and stuff I took, and all that's kept. And who knows what I'll ever do with it, but I do have actually the wall behind me. I have quite a bit of stuff that I like awards at
Yeah.
USA Hockey. I got best player, best US player in international competition 1 year, and so that's always a neat one. I have a couple of like they really did really awesome like diamond rings, the big chunky rings that you get when you win for Sochi, we got a really an awesome one, so that's pretty neat. But
So
um,
you said kids. I know you said you had a daughter. She's what, like probably 15 now then, when you had
yeah,
her. And
yeah,
then you have another, how many other kids?
yeah. When I the year I went to Sochi, my son was born in 2013, like 3 months before I left for Sochi. So that was a
Yeah.
fun that was a fun time.
Well,
Yeah.
you got out of town.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
So he's
I think I had to hear about it enough to,
yeah,
to-
I can only imagine.
yeah.
So so your daughter 13, 15. So what is she then? She must be a sophomore around there.
Yes.
And do they play sports?
Yes, my daughter has played soccer ever since she was young. Played at BSA for a long time. Lindsay Fick
Okay.
was her coach. You probably know Lindsay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And so they and then we moved to Des Moines in 2020. And so they now she's playing high school soccer and club soccer, and my son plays he's in sixth grade this year, playing football, and he plays lacrosse and he plays
Oh
hockey.
yeah. Awesome. Lacrosse. I
So
mean, it's lacrosse to me was one that we missed out on because it didn't come to our school until like the 1979 or 80. So it was like it wasn't one of those ones you could just pick up,
yeah,
and learn. But I had a cousin that played, and he was on that first team in high school. He played hockey too. But yeah, lacrosse is an awesome sport, man. I was fortunate enough where one of my friends did play and he played football with me, but it's crazy how I would go to every game because I just loved watching it. And I was the timer. I don't know if you know, so if you know lacrosse, like the timer guy goes like on the field at the end towards like the half or whatever. And so they had an alumni game, and it was they asked me if I wanted to play in it. I'd never played lacrosse like ever. So here I
yeah,
am. They knew what they were doing because they so I get my buddy's equipment. He had like two sets of everything. So I'm in the equipment, and I'm like, and they're like, oh well, you'll take the face off. And I take the face off this kid that was like an alumni that played, 4 years of lacrosse. He
yeah. They were doing
just
that on purpose, huh?
destroyed. Yeah, it was like I
Yeah,
didn't know what the hell was going on.
yeah. Yes,
Mm,
that scrum is serious.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, no, I had would have loved to have played lacrosse also. Like it looks so fun.
yeah.
Everything that I love about sports is in lacrosse, and so I would have loved it. I love that you just can crush each other, and it seems so fun to play. He loves that part of it. He's playing defense and really has embraced it this year. So, and then his hockey team, I have coached his hockey team the last 4 years. I'm coaching his team again this year,
Nice.
and so that's 6 months out of the year. We're practicing 3 nights a week, and then we're going somewhere on the weekends. So, it it's super fun. We have a great time doing it. So,
You might want to teach him this one. You probably already know it, but you mentioned earlier about how the European players or the Russians, whoever, they would use the sticks and to hurt you, right? With the
yeah,
point. Well, there were kids, I remember hearing stories about these kids in high school that they would literally sharpen the cradle, the part of the cradle. They'd sharpen it, and then they would just, jab you behind the arm or something, like slice you with their stick in
really. That
lacrosse. Oh yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah,
Yep.
I have not heard of that trick, but that
Well, you
seems,
didn't hear it from me.
yeah, yeah. I'll
So
have
he
to see
gets
if
in
he's heard
trouble.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Um,
remember at one point, like there were kids that played aluminum shaft, and then there was kids in defense that had they would play with a wooden stick. I don't know what they have. That's probably all
it's all
composite
composite
sticks.
now. Yep.
Yeah.
No, nobody uses anything but composite. It's
Yeah.
um,
Is
all
that
for
what you
that
guys
flex.
was that what the hockey sticks were made out of? Composite?
Yeah, not
Yeah.
originally when I was playing. Originally, some people were playing with all wood.
Yeah.
Some people are playing with composite shafts and then wood inserts.
Yep.
And but now Warrior makes these really cool one pieces that pretty much most people are using for that. So,
Yeah.
hey, quick
Yeah. Do it.
trivia. Rick Middleton,
Yep.
he was the coach of the 2002 sled hockey team that won gold in Salt Lake City.
Was he really?
Head coach. Yep.
Tricky Ricky. He was, man, I'll tell you, he was so cool. You know what's funny about those guys though? I don't know how much they made, but I don't think they made a lot of money right back
No.
then. And and they also looked older than they probably were. Like Rick Middleton didn't have hair. Like he had this like the comb over going on. Like before they had to wear helmets. They were always, you didn't have to wear a helmet, but it's funny. He was one of my favorite. He was good. I loved him. But then when it was Cam Neely, Janney, and Joyce, that line for the Bruins was amazing. Remember when he got hurt and he came back and scored 50 goals in 50
That's
games.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a machine back then.
And I mean, fighter, oh my God. Like you didn't want to fight him and he wouldn't fight a lot, but when he did, he beat the crap out of guys.
Yeah, that's fun hockey to watch.
So I got another side story. During college, my older brother got a job at the Marriott Hotel in Peabody, and they had a nightclub in there. This was in like shit, 88, 89, somewhere in there. And it was like a new nightclub. So all these people were going there, and it was like really popular. But Neely, and do you remember Lyndon Byers? He just passed away, by the way. Lyndon Byers. Lyndon Byers
I
played
don't,
for the Bruins. He was a goon. Like he was the fighter. He was number 34. But him and Neely were buddies, and they would come into to the club, and he would get in fights in the all the time, and we'd have to break up fights with like Lyndon Byers and Cam Neely. It was crazy.
yeah, those guys probably did well for themselves out and
They
about in the
did, yeah.
area there.
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
You just kind of let them do their thing and tell them they have to leave. But it was kind of funny how those guys like to drink.
Yeah, that's typical, especially that era of hockey. I don't even know how they were able to perform out there. It sounds like most of them were taking buses city to city, just pounding beers
Yeah.
regularly.
There was a kid though from Peabody. He went to St. John's Prep. I don't know if you remember Bobby Carpenter. He was from my hometown. Bobby Carpenter. He played for the Washington Capitals for a long time, and then for the Bruins.
Huh.
He's a good dude. So you'd mentioned when one of the things you mentioned is when you were leaving are you still tied to the Olympic team or are you still tied in any way? And then you'd mentioned getting, working with the organization to get funding from, um, I forget, was it U.S. Hockey or something like that to help fund these
Yeah,
guys?
yep. USA Hockey is who the contract's with. Part of that funding is still with US OPC.
Okay.
Um, and uh, so I'm on the selection committee for the team currently. I was just in North Dakota 2 weeks ago. US tryouts was in North Dakota, and um, I went there along with a couple of my old teammates, and then the coach, assistant coach, and team manager, and we helped select the team. Um, so I am still obviously a little bit tied to the program. And for the last 3 years, I've been on the board of directors at USA Hockey as an athlete representative.
Oh, nice.
Um, and involved in several different committees within USA Hockey, legal counsel, technology committee, and marketing committee. So lots of different aspects of USA Hockey. But I just finished that role in June at the last meeting in June. So moving on from that, it was starting to one of those things that in that kind of an organization, it can just, I mean, it can be your whole life like that. You could have meetings every day, all day, like a full-time job, and be doing it all out of the goodness of your heart. So I I was like, I got there's so many other things I'd like to do and need to spend my time with that this is starting to be a little too consuming. So I stepped away from that.
So the next winter, remember at one point, didn't they like make a change to that there'll be an Olympics every 2 years, like summer, then winter, then summer, then winter, instead of the same year? Is that I mean I forget, didn't something like that happen? Like, because
Yeah, they
when's the
started that.
next?
That was a while ago, though. They
Yeah,
started doing that where it's offset now, so it's every 2 years. There's a summer games or a winter
and then a
games.
Winter Games. Yeah. So then
Yeah, so that there's a
when is the
games.
next
This is Milan Cortino is this year.
for
Italy.
winter?
Yep,
For
for the
winter.
winter.
Okay.
Yep. So that's the team we were selecting to play
Yep.
in this games in Milan Cortino, and so should be a
How many
big year for
guys?
those guys.
How many guys did you have come out for
Uh,
tryout?
they did this differently than they ever have before, where they only they handpicked who they wanted. They did development camps around the
Hmm.
country, like one in California, one in Minneapolis, one in Florida, one in Buffalo, New York, and then they took if there was anybody at those camps that they thought was at the level that should try out, they took those people and the people that were on the team, and they've already the other they had kind of a taxi squad of another 6 or 7 players that have been traveling with them for the last couple years, trying to bring the talent level up. And so there was, I think in total, there was probably 30 guys
Hmm.
there altogether for 17 spots. Um, and again, they used to have like more of an open tryout, like it was sort of invitation only, but people could still come, and the numbers were just getting too big. There was like 100 people there, and you just can't narrow it down to who your top players really are. So this was a much better design, much higher level, and
I have
really
one
able
more
to.
question. I got one more question I just thought of, and I don't know why I thought of it. You were going through the like talking about how many people and all that, and I thought, shit, let me ask this question because totally don't know. And it's shame on me. I've actually heard about it, seen maybe like that documentary you're talking about. I remember when they did it. I remember hearing about it. But how do you do line change? And like, how do you get off the ice? And like, as if you're in that sled, where how is that all? Like, explain how that all works, and then we can end it. I don't want to keep you too much longer. Sorry.
So the line changes are different depending on how adapted the rink is for sled hockey.
Okay.
There are some where you literally there's a whole full like foot step up between the
Hmm.
benches and the ice.
Yep.
Um, so now they designed rinks to be adaptive, and where you basically just have like a little, there's a bump just to get over, but
Go over it. Yeah.
they're almost flush with the ice, and they're putting clear plastic in the bench areas so that when you're seated
You can
down
see.
sitting on the benches, you can see through and see what's happening in the game. So
Yep.
those are kind of the adaptations that they've made. Um, at most tournaments now that you would go to, there would be like a plastic sheeting on the bench area, so that you could skate in and skate on that
Oh
synthetic
yeah.
plastic
Yep.
into the benches. If there is not any of that and there is like a step up and the rinks aren't adapted, people are sitting on the ice between the blue lines. So like each team is out on the ice. So you can see that obviously having your rink adapted and being able to be on the bench is a huge,
Yep.
improvement. And um, once you get to the Paralympic level and you're playing internationally, they actually ice the benches. And so they put a layer of ice in the bench. You literally skate right in and skate right out.
Yep.
So that's how that all works.
I didn't even think to ask that one. I mean, like I get when I do these podcasts and if I talk to a runner or wherever, I always have people after going, "Hey, why didn't you ask that?" You know, like the technical stuff. Like I had on did you so you grew up in Bettendorf and you went to Bettendorf schools. Um no, he went to never mind. He went to Davenport. That guy Phil Young, I don't know if you know Phil. He's like owns Fleet Feet, the store. He actually just opened the one in Des Moines out there,
Huh.
Fleet Feet.
And
Um,
what's Phil's last name?
Phil Young.
Okay. I don't think I
But
know
anyway,
Phil.
I had him on, and I mean, they sell shoes. He's an unbelievable runner, and I wanted to get some questions about technical, like shoes, how they make them, and all that. So I didn't want to leave questions about the hockey because it's just you know, if you've never played hockey, it's hard to explain how many men are on the ice and all that kind of stuff. But I just assumed everybody knows that. But the getting
Yeah.
in and off the ice is a kind of a interesting one.
Yeah, that definitely complicates it. And it's makes it really fun when you can skate right on and off the bench. But
And then
playing when
actually now another technical one. Sorry, are like when you look at penalties for hockey, are there different penalties versus regular hockey?
there is one different penalty, and it's T-boning. when you lead with the front of your sled into someone else's sled,
Yeah.
that's a penalty that is different from hockey, but all other rules
Changed.
are the same. Like charging is like two pushes with your feet, where it's two strides. Uh, so a lot of those rules are still really the same. Super fun game to play.
Yeah. So I really appreciate you doing this. If you could send me some pictures or links, and what I'll do is I'll edit it in the videos and the link to the documentary and all that. But it was nice to meet you. Thank you for doing that. Congratulations on all that success that you had. And I think the story is, I don't say it's tragic that it happened to you, but it's just so amazing how you took that and turned it into this incredible hockey journey and Olympics and meeting presidents. That's unbelievable. Especially, and then not only just like that part about it, but like when I grew up, it was like, I'm just from Peabody, Mass, like, and from being from Bettendorf and meeting the president, not too many people get a chance to do that or play on an Olympic team. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely just out there trying to have as much fun as I can every
Yeah.
day, John.
Yeah. Well, keep it up. Good luck to your kids in school this year. I really appreciate
Thanks.
you doing this.
Yeah,
Thank
look
you.
forward to meeting you in person someday.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, send me an email or I'll send you an email because I want to get your address.
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
All right. Thanks
Cool.
a lot, Andy.
You have a great night, man.
All right. You too.
We'll see you.
See ya.